Disciplinary Committee. So apparently, whatever has been happening or whatever has been brewing in the PDP is just it's going stronger, I guess. Well, I don't know. But then I'm more curious as to what exactly informed the suspension of former Senate President Pius Aim and former Katsina State Governor Alhaji Ibrahim Shema. As you know, their suspension was conveyed in a statement by the PDP National Publicity Secretary Debo Olugunagba, and this statement coming from the National Working Committee after an extensive review of the affairs of their party in the country and pursuant to the provisions of the PDP Constitution, referred Dr. Samuel Autumn to the National Disciplinary Committee over his reported involvement in anti-party activities. That's what?
Yes.
Are you not curious as to why some names are being mentioned, why some names are not being mentioned? You know, what exactly is happening? Are we seeing double standards here? You know, what's going on?
You know, when things fall apart, this is what you get. When things fall apart, you know, one was thinking it was a partial fall. I'm seeing a complete fall here.
Of the PDP.
You know, from this report, it's now obvious that the division within the PDP is even bigger than the G5. You know, one was thinking it was just merely the G5. Now we're seeing other names come up, like former Senate President Aim. So the meaning is that, look, there were a lot of other people who were not satisfied with happenings in the PDP. They were not just as vocal as the G5. So I have my fears for the PDP because prior to 2015, when they lost out at the presidential level, one had thought that, well, division, somehow they'll be able to come back in 2019. The NPDP that left for the APC came back, the Saraki, Dino Milaya, and the rest. And so one was thinking that somehow the PDP was would be able to come back, get its act together, and then, of course, form a formidable opposition. But here we are, 2023, the party is looking heavily divided. There's so much confusion. The center cannot hold. As I speak to you, Sandra, there's no father figure that you can look at. You know, when you say father figure, now that central command, that person that can whip, you know, I keep mentioning it. There must be somebody within a party that can coordinate, that everybody in the party respects. It's always important. Again, we are looking at the peculiarities of how we run our politics here in Nigeria. And if a political party does not have that central figure, there's always a problem. And that's what you have seen of the PDP. One would think that, again, in the spirit of reconciliation, in the spirit of really knocking the wound of that heavy defeat at the polls, the PDP structure or leadership will stick back and speak true to themselves about why they lost that election and begin to look at ways of reconciling. 4 years is not too far, really, in the political cycle.
That is if the party, as you know, as a whole, is interested in going as one to the polls by 2027.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That look, what would have thought that, hey, they sit back and say, okay, we made these mistakes. Okay, how do we correct them? How can we bring the house together again? And all of that. It's going to be tough. But when you now go on a suspension spree, you are now suspending everybody and anybody. Then who is left in the party, really, to coordinate the party? As I speak to you now, if you look at it, Seyi Makinde is supposed to be the de facto leader of the PDP in the Southwest. It's also it's not also in the good books of the party hierarchy as we speak. And I'm sure that the reason why they are not even announcing his suspension is that he's a governor and he has won re-election in Oyo State. Like you said, there's double standard. Because if you are accusing these other men of anti-party activity, what would you say of a Wike? Why have they not suspended Wike? Although he has gone to court to stop his suspension, but it could have still been suspended and become a litigation. Why have they not suspended Seyi Makinde? And so many others that were open about the anti-party activities during the presidential election. So I see a situation where I have my fears for the PDP as an opposition. Again, the APC this time has one more state. They seem to be stronger now. If you look at the announcements of the results, they've been able to retain the presidency. And if the PDP is not is not serious about opposition politics and find a way to get it right and unite their house, they'll be going to oblivion. Sandra.
All right. Well, the report, what we have in the report is that in a swift reaction, Autumn has accused the PDP leadership of acting in contempt of a subsisting court order by referring him to a disciplinary committee. The governor, in a statement by his chief press secretary, Nathaniel Ikur, said the court order barred the party from taking any disciplinary measures against him. The case is pending in court, and there is an order of injunction restraining any organ of the party from carrying out any disciplinary action against the governor. And the case is adjourned till April 18. So it is baffling to see such a statement coming from the national leadership of the party. Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike, who has thrown his weight behind Autumn, said the Benue State Governor will not appear before the party's disciplinary committee. He described as nullity the suspension of Fayose and others for anti-party activities. This is while he was reacting to the decision to take disciplinary action and all. We also have here, reacting to his suspension, Ayo Fayose has also said that he described it as a nullity and a joke taken too far, adding that the decision of the IU-led NWC lacked moral and constitutional backing. And Fayose, in a statement by his media aide, Mr. Liri Olayinka, said the suspension was nothing but the last kick of a dead horse. Well, it's well, there's one thing that he said that I'm just going to wrap things up with. He said, IU and his cohorts are only entertaining themselves with the purported suspension as their latest comedy skit. In a matter of days, the inglorious tenure of IU as national chairman of PDP will become history, and the party will enjoy a new lease of life. So, I'm curious. At the center of it all,
We still are you.
thank you. Here we.
but Sandra, I have my fears for IU, and I'll tell you why I'm a bit afraid. About his future as the chairman of the party. And again, these are just my own projections, my own calculations about the future of the PDP. Now, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, after all the court cases, depending on where and how the pronouncements are made on all of the cases before it. But let's also look at a scenario where eventually he loses out at the court, and then he decides, okay, this is the end of it all, and decides to return to his base. Most times, you find that he resides in Dubai. I don't see him committing again to the party financially. Again, that's the reality. I doubt if he decides to return to his base, he would be committed financially, morally, and physically to the party. So what are the guys that are going to take charge? It will still have to be these governors, the governors of the PDP. And like I said, in the Southwest, who are they going to be looking up to? Maybe Adeleke in Osun State, because somehow he has been able to do well and deliver for the PDP in these last elections. But the reality is that there's even a judgment coming up today at the appeal court in Osun State. But whatever happens, you have Adeleke, you have Seyi Makinde. You cannot even compare Osun State to Oyo State in terms of capacity and strength. So
Makinde is still extremely important to the PDP.
Important to the PDP.
All right. Well, okay, I'm with you.
Even in Rivers State, because in the South, you need to look at the influence Rivers State carries. And with Fubara governor-elect now, who is completely loyal, of course, as endorsed by Wike and supported by Wike, the reality is that I see a situation where they would have to find a way to ease out IU, and then these governors will take over the party and see how to rebuild it.
Well, it's going to be an interesting one, just as Fuad has said. The future of the People's Democratic Party in this country seems bleak at the moment. But then, if anyone can arise from the ashes of the elections in times past and actually maybe resurrect the party one way or the other, hopefully we'll be seeing better days for the PDP. It's okay. More details on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. Moving on, we also have here Ekweremadu, wife, doctor for sentencing on May 5. Life jail is the maximum punishment. So, as it is now, Sonia, the 25-year-old daughter of former Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu, burst into tears after her parents were convicted by a British court. And they were convicted of conspiring to exploit David Nwamini. And they will be sentenced on May 5 and could face up to 10 years in jail. That's unfortunate. They were found guilty yesterday. And as it is now, what exactly the punishment would be, we'll get to hear by May 5, 2023. It's very unfortunate how the tides things have turned, how the tides have turned for Ike Ekweremadu, who was not even able to participate in the elections. Oh, well,
there are lessons to learn.
Yes,
there are actually lessons to learn from this case. It's unfortunate. As a parent, of course, one tempted to have that sympathy, because again, the entire
they did what they did for their child. Yes, yeah, exactly.
But there are lessons about processes and procedures, Sandra. The things we take for granted back home in other crimes are taken seriously, and there are consequences for it, no matter who is involved. And that's the lesson that I think we have to learn here. That look, the things we just do here, we gloss over, we think it doesn't matter, and we don't get consequences for them. In those societies, you are held to account, and the maximum punishment and the weight of the law, is applied. It's unfortunate, and we wish them well. And this is a very tough one for them. But again, it is what it is.
One more details on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. We wish them all the best. Naira scarcity. CBN begins allocation of more cash to banks. As we have now, the CBN yesterday began cash allocation to banks to ease the scarcity. And they said, and I'm quoting, CBN is saying, we hope to see a marked improvement in the availability of cash in the next few days. Well, they said they also have family members who have been affected, so they are going to look into what they can do. The CBN may have also bowed to the added pressure by the NLC when it was announced on Wednesday that workers will down their tools in a week's time if something is not being done as regards availability of cash from the CBN. So we're hoping for normalcy to return in the next few weeks. Even the banks have said that in a week or two things should go back to normal. So are we cautiously optimistic, or we're looking forward to normalcy?
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. Again, because of the recent events, on this particular policy. But it's good that at least we are getting reports and assurances that more Naira notes will be available in the commercial banks. The banks are giving a 2 weeks timeline for normalcy to return. So we're hoping. I think we have to keep our eyes on the ball. We need to continue to check and recheck if indeed these things are happening and going to happen eventually. We need to just go back to normal, Sandra. I said it, I think, about 2 days ago. There's no more votes to buy anywhere. So can we just go back to how we lived our lives before this unnecessary disruption? So it's nice, but I know that, again, like we always say, there are consequences for these things. And it's easy to cause disruption. To rearrange and bring it back is always the problem. Those businesses that were disrupted, businesses that collapsed as a result of this policy, some of those businesses may not come back. May not resurrect, may not come back.
Especially when interest rate for customer loan now is
so
at 18%.
For loan, now, interest rate is killing. You understand? So that's one thing. Then the banks that were burnt now, I'm sure insurance companies would have to be paying heavily for some of these things. Again, unnecessary disruption in that area. What are people that died, Sandra? How do we compensate those people now on this failed policy? Because there are people were killed on this particular issue.
Yeah.
So again, it just goes to show that we need to learn. Again, in all of this, what lessons have we learned going forward? That's also the question. Have we learned anything about processes and procedures? Have we also learned lessons about holding people to account? Are there lessons for checks and balances so that in the future, when policies are initiated and it becomes anti-people policy in terms of the way it is implemented, we quickly go back to correcting it? How do we also ensure that our leaders listen to the people, listen to the cries of the people? They are not adamant on failed policies when people complain about it. Those are the lessons for me. How do we ensure that this does not repeat itself?
All right. More details on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. Just as what I said, we're cautiously optimistic to cautiously reviewing the activities of the banks in the next 2 weeks. All right. We also have here Cleric, 27 others held for internet fraud. That's on page 6. And we also have Cleric as in spiritual leader.
Is it Yahoo?
What difference does it make what they are doing?
Internet fraud, I don't know, but it has to be Yahoo now.
Is that the only internet fraud activity?
When you say cleric, sorry?
A cleric, yes. A cleric, and 27 others suspected to be Yahoo boys.
It's okay. I wanted to just be sure.
It's Yahoo. So, yes. So the EFCC in Ilorin, arrested a cleric and 27 others suspected to be Yahoo boys in Kwara State. And as it is now, the names of all the people who were arrested are on page 6. Yes, on page 6, okay. You can get all of the items there. So items recovered from them include 10 exotic cars, different brands of laptops, cell phones, printers, amongst others. So they will be arraigned in court upon the conclusion of investigation. That's on page 6 of the nation. So yes, there you have it. It's Yahoo.
No, it's okay. I just wanted you to put the story into proper perspective. It's okay. It's all right.
It's all right. Thank you very much. Why supplementary polls are delayed? That's INEC. Given that statement there, the story is on page 28. So for those who have been asking what is going to happen in constituencies where elections were cancelled or declared inconclusive, what we have now or suspended, what we have is that INEC has said supplementary election in some states will be conducted when the delimitation details of the constituencies involved are available. All right, and they are said they are determined to conclude the supplementary election, and they said they may take a decision on Saturday on the exact date for the conduct of the supplementary election. So, all these.
On my mind, yeah.
Well, what I have here is senatorial elections will be held in Kebbi North, Plateau Central, Yobe South, Zamfara Central, Sokoto East, North, and South. Also, supplementary elections will hold in 2 federal constituencies in Akwa Ibom, Imo, Kano, Kebbi, Oyo, Rivers, and Zamfara. Elections will also hold in Taraba, Kogi, Jigawa, Ebonyi, Bayelsa, and Anambra. Although House Leader Al-Hassan Ado Dogua was initially declared winner of the Dogua Tunduwada constituency in Kano State, INEC withdrew the announcement, saying the results were declared under duress. So that is also included in the election. So what we have is
3 people died as a result of the violence.
Exactly. So what we have is that we must first harvest the delimitation details of all the places where supplementary elections have been indicated. So we have elections in Plateau, Imo, Anambra, Kebbi, Adamawa, Sokoto, and other places. So they have to print ballot papers for them, assemble staff that will run the election, engage the transporters to move the materials and the staff. They have to put together the funds necessary for the supplementary. So there's a whole lot to put together. So by Saturday, hopefully, we'll get an announcement of when supplementary elections will be held in those parts of the country. More details on page 28. We also have here several thousands of candidates for mock UTME. That's on page 5. 2 killed in police kidnappers shootout. That's on page 6. Above the masthead of the Nation newspaper, we have here this very interesting story. I've been looking forward to having a conversation on it. Minister insists Nigeria Air will fly before May 29. I've been looking forward to have a conversation around this particular story. So, Minister of Aviation Hadi Sirika is still bent on the Nigeria Air story, saying that the local airlines that took the federal government to court are just being unfair because the Buhari administration has been very good to them, and over the past administrations that we have had. So what we have is the Minister of Aviation, Senator Hadi Sirika, has said the proposed national carrier, Nigeria Air, will fly before May 29, 2023. And he said the project was 98% completed. And he stated this in Abuja yesterday. And while giving an update, he said all of the roadmap items, except perhaps the airline, which in my opinion is 98% completion, will fly within these remaining 2 months. We'll also finish the concessioning. So all those things we said we will do when we came in, we did them before the end of this administration. Okay, so is it about I want to achieve something, I want to leave a legacy before just do something before I get out of office?
What legacy, Sandra? What legacy do you say?
We have a national carrier that
will be run practically by Ethiopian Airlines.
That Hadi Sirika, under his leadership as the Minister of Aviation,
there was a national carrier. Yeah, well, if he considers that as a legacy and an achievement, it's fine. He has the right to think that it is. But against what end is all of this wahala and desperation? We always ask
the pride of having a national carrier.
What? Okay, look, have you read the concerns of the local airlines that has gone that went to
several concerns? One is which 98% of the people that are going to be engaging
are not even Nigerians.
Are not Nigerians, they're Ethiopians.
Okay.
And aside from that, the transaction intermediary between the federal government and whoever, and Ethiopian Airlines, or the bidding committee, was established in mid 2021, and also has, or supposedly or allegedly has, connections with Hadi Sirika.
Vested interest issues, yes.
Vested interest issues. So we have all of that. We also have the fact that they're just upset because there are a lot of things that they have been calling for and nothing is happening for them. So which they have rights to all of these things, and there are points that they are bringing from the reason why they are going to court.
You see, they are concerned because they are a major stakeholder in all of this. They operate our local airline.
Of course.
But I think Nigerians too have to be concerned. And I think this is where even the labor, the organized labor, civil societies have to also speak up. Because again, the reality is this. What exactly are we supposed to achieve with a national carrier that is run practically by Ethiopian Airlines in terms of its operatives, even the air? Because I'm not sure we bought any of the aircraft that will be used for this. So is it just
we didn't buy aircraft for that. Is why we are going in partnership with Ethiopian Airlines. So they supply us the aircraft.
So they'll just take maybe 2 or 3 of their aircraft and paint it for us, Nigerian Air, and that's it. And so what exactly does that give us?
The pilots,
in terms of revenue, it's even going to be what?
To be shared. It will be shared.
What would be our own share at the end of the day?
51%.
You see, Sandra, again, these are things that let us see how it goes. Let us give him the benefit of the doubt and allow the thing to fly. Because I have my worry, and the major worry for me that when things are done in this manner, you begin to suspect the vested interest as already alleged. And if there is vested interest really, at the end of the day, it does not really bring anything to the table for the country. It's just about people who are looking at opportunities and all of that. So we wait to see the thing fly first. We started with logo problem. This problem of Nigeria started with logo. The cost of designing the logo and all of that. Now we are so let it even fly. Let us see what happens after the whole thing has kicked off. I have my worries, really.
Well, I have a lot of worries. Aside from the fact that post flying worries, There's also the worry of the incoming government, who will probably be having a new minister of aviation, who probably may not share the same vision with Hadi Sirika, who probably may not be comfortable with working with Ethiopian Airlines or Nigeria
but you
Air.
know, Sandra, immediately you have a binding agreement, it will be difficult to renege from it. So.
You know,
That's the problem of already doing these things. So.
That's so now you get where I'm coming from. So shouldn't there be, you know, a connection in some sort with the transition committee of the incoming government with Adi Sirika on this, and let it not be that, you know, somebody somewhere has signed off Nigeria on something, and then somebody will now come and say, oh, we don't know anything about it, we inherited it from the last administration. You know,
it will happen. You know, we're only highlighting this Nigeria Air thing. There are other concessioning agreements going on as we speak now, and that's why it's important for the transition committee to start to work to get briefs about some of these things. In fact, that's the reason why the president-elect has an office created for him to also begin to think about these things and share correspondence, share ideas about his own direction to the outgoing government, because you don't want to inherit these kinds of body. It happened with the power sector. You know, where the agreements with the B schools were already signed, and then the government came in, and then we have this mess.
Right.
But again, it is what it is. We hope that, you know, we'll be able to clear this mess when a new government comes in.
Hopefully. More details on page 7. Moving on ahead, tight security as Court of Appeal decides Adeleke's fate today. It's going to be an interesting one. Let's look forward to that. That's on page 5. Before the end of the day, we'll definitely break the news to you. Moving on, we also have here insurance assets rise to 2.3 trillion naira. That's on page 7. And finally, from the Nation newspaper, yellow cards for owners of Lagos 349 derelict buildings. That's on page 27. And just very quickly, what that reports is okay. The Lagos State Building Control Agency, LASPCA, has identified 349 distressed buildings, and they have given the owners or developers of the buildings a final notice to conduct a non-destructive test on the structures to ascertain their structural stability. All right, and they have also urged the concerned parties to contact LASPCA for further information or clarification. Well, if you're concerned, please do the needful. More details on page 27 of the Nation newspaper.
Tell me whether your building is listed.
It's not, the listing is not there, so I'm sure they must have gotten notices. That's if you got if you got a notice, just do the needful. Let's move on now very quickly. You're listening to Mainland 98.3 FM. This is Trends in the Papers. We're looking to trending stories on the front pages of the papers. And you can also watch the program live on Facebook and YouTube at Mainland 98.3 FM. The Guardian newspaper, major headline, Keyamo petitions DSS, demands Obi and that is arrest. Okay. Yes. We also have riders to that. He's a rabble rouser, says UNISA. PDP suspends Fayose Shema Aim. My suspension, Ayu's last kick of a dead horse, says Fayose. Ortam will not appear before PDP disciplinary committee, says Wike. Protesters seek interim government, demand removal of INEC chair. Adamawa APC reverses suspension of Mustafa. All right, so we've already had a conversation as regards 90% of the riders here, so we'll just move straight on to Minister of State. Yes, Minister of State Labor and Minister of State Labor and Employment, and also spokesperson of the APC Presidential Campaign Council, Festus Keyamo, SAN, has petitioned the State Security Services demanding the arrest and prosecution of Labour Party.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Oh. That was loud. All right. Demanding the prosecution and arrest of Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi and his running mate, Dati Baba Ahmed, for allegedly inciting Nigerians over the outcome of the recently held presidential election. In the petition, which was addressed to the Director General of SSS, dated March 23, Keyamo said, in a post-election period, there is a need to soothe the frayed nerves, lower the temperature, and begin the healing process. All right. And according to him, the comments and claims that were made are not just within the boundaries of exercising the freedom or rights of freedom of speech, but they crossed the line to call for outright truncation of democracy.